Hollywood icon Robert Redford has died at the age of 89. And Redford, a Southern California native, was known for iconic films in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Way We Were, The Sting, and All the President's Men. And he later won an Oscar for directing the Best Picture winning movie, Ordinary People. He also founded the Sundance Film Institute to support the growth of independent films. And joining me now to discuss Redford's life and legacy is Clayton Davis, Chief Awards Editor for Variety. Clayton, great to have you on again.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk a little bit more about his life and legacy. After rising to stardom in the 1960s, Redford was one of the biggest stars of the 70s. And what was it like being such an icon in Hollywood during that time?
I mean, you have to look at someone like Redford. This is one of the guys that hung out with Paul Newman, used his platform, what I wish many A-listers would do. They took that love and that admiration that the world felt for them, and they paid it back to independent cinema. He just walked through the world as if he wasn't one of the biggest stars in the world, and then he just created a foundation that has gave a pathway to many great filmmakers of today. And I think it is no small feat to say that today's loss is rippled throughout the film world, because a lot of people that we love and admire today that are making films, that get to act in films, are thanks to Redford.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go back to something you just were mentioning there, Clayton. You said he co-starred in so many iconic movies with Paul Newman, like Butch and Sundance, plus The Sting as well. How big was it having these two leading men on screen together? And are there any modern comparisons to the relationship you can think of? Think of maybe a Clooney and a Brad Pitt, something like that.
That's actually was where I was going to go. It was like the Clooney and Brad Pitt of their time, kind of minus any like tabloid stuff, because Paul Newman was married to Joanne Woodward for many years, and Redford, obviously doing such great work in front of the camera. Then he stepped behind the camera, eventually winning an Oscar for Ordinary People back in 1980, won Timothy Hutton an Oscar, gave Mary Tyler Moore one of her greatest roles alongside Donald Sutherland, and then he kept doing it. He went into Quiz Show in the 90s with Ralph Fiennes, and then he still reminded us that he's still one of the great actors. I can remember watching his film All Is Lost back in the 2010s. It's a film, where he's stranded on a ship. It was directed by J.C. Chandor. He hardly says anything in the movie, and yet it's one of the most invigorating performances of his career. Landed him a Golden Globe nomination. He was just one of the coolest. And I always say, for someone like me, I'm an 80s kid. I was born in the 80s. My first discovery of him wasn't Butch Cassidy. It's actually this movie Sneakers, which was an all-star cast that also starred Sidney Poitier and River Phoenix and Dan Aykroyd. It was my jam. It was like, who's this redhead guy? And I just went down a rabbit hole and discovered every single one of his movies and never looked back.
Yeah, so you're talking my language. The same thing with me, which led to a sneaky good one of his is Spy Game, too. I love that one as well.
I love Spy Game.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Redford's passion for filmmaking, as you've mentioned, Clayton, led to his creation of the Sundance Film Institute to support independent film and theater. Talk to us about the impact Redford has had on the film industry through the founding of Sundance.
I mean, you can look you could look every year at every big movie that gets bought or small movie that gets bought that becomes a big movie. I mean, we have a Best Picture winner, Coda, today because of the Sundance Film Festival. Even doesn't have to always just be Oscar-y movies. We look at something like Palm Springs, which was the Andy Samberg comedy at the time, became the biggest purchase in Sundance history. It was $17.5 million and 1 penny, just because they wanted to have the title of biggest purchase in history. But so many great movies are discovered there. They curate and nurture the next generation of filmmakers. It has become a paramount and a vital piece of our community. And now, especially going into this next Sundance, which will be the last Sundance in Utah before it moves to Colorado, this all seems like the end of a huge chapter, and we're all eager to see where the next one leads. But without Redford here, it's going to be sad nonetheless.
It will be indeed. Let me get you out of here on this one. You've been, speaking so highly of him. Give me just the last thing that you either your own personal, how you feel about him, what you remember the most, and then just how Hollywood will remember him.
Me personally, like I always go back to like the first thing that I saw I've seen someone in. So obviously I just spoke about going, with sneakers, and and I love that that's an underrated gem because it just shows that anyone can find a star in any capacity in any role in Hollywood and have it impact their career. When I think of what Hollywood's gonna miss, man, this is one of the final golden age era movie stars that has left us. And when you lose someone like that coming a few months after Gene Hackman, it just starts to remind us that it's kind of that we're there.
Yeah, Clayton, I got to jump in there. Thank you so much for joining us. Clayton Davis, Chief Awards Editor for Variety. Appreciate your time as always.
Thanks for having me.